Based on the 2005 dystopian novel by Scott Westerfield, Uglies is set in a future society where everyone is considered ugly until they reach 16 and undergo extreme cosmetic surgery to make them pretty. However, the changes are not only on the surface level, as those who become pretty also see changes in their personalities to make them more perfect to everyone else. This perfect society has kept the world peaceful and organised, with no jealousy or greed leading to conflicts. However, Tally, played by Joey King, finds that her best friend Paris is completely changed after his procedure, and another friend, Shay, flees the city before her 16th birthday to join a resistance movement opposed to the procedure, known as the Smoke. Turning 16 herself, Tally is denied treatment until she aids a Dr. Cable in tracking down the resistance cell that her friend has run off to, and in doing so, she opens her eyes to the reality of this perfect world that she lives in. First things first, when casting the film about 15-year-old Uglies, maybe don't use a cast that are much older and certainly not anywhere near the definition of ugly. Look, I get that part of the message here is that superficial ideas of what constitutes pretty are part of the controlling of the society, but not one person looks the age they are meant to be. And suspending disbelief to accept that Joey King is in any way, shape or form ugly is one heck of a stretch. That aside, the concept of the tale feels somewhat Logan's Run crossed with Divergent, and it does hold some social commentary ideas that maybe back in 2005 when the novel was penned for young adults would have been considered somewhat prescient, especially when you look at the proliferation of minor cosmetic surgery and Instagram filters these days, making everyone online seemingly want to look like they are sucking on lemons all the time. However, in the hands of McG, whose output has been rather mixed, but generally edging primarily to the trashy dumb side, any reflections on the world around us are casually glossed over in favour of cheap spectacle, the level of which we've come to expect from the polish of Netflix output. Joey King tries her hardest, but the character of Tally simply isn't interesting or original enough to care for. This is a familiar young hero rebelling against a perfect dystopian society template, which has been tried, tested and worn out, and add into the mix that this adaptation of the first book, which itself was written as a proposed trilogy so has no obvious conclusion, simply feels like setup and exposition for what will come next. And it simply means that it isn't a complete film in and of itself, with no build-up to anything revelatory, all just being simple background for what I assume is the war to come in future chapters. Given the reception to this film, I doubt we'll ever get to see how the tale plays out, and frankly, I don't actually care. Even though the somewhat cliffhanger ending tries its hardest to offer some shock to latch onto, it doesn't. Uglies is simply another ugly Netflix sci-fi in a dystopian streaming future. Directed and written by Caroline Fargate, The Substance is a satirical body horror film that, similar to Barbie, explores the perception of beauty standards in a male-dominated society, only in a more darkly twisted manner. This is a film about the male gaze, and the idea that stardom will only last as long as your youth does in a misogynistic environment of the Hollywood engine. Demi Moore is Elizabeth Sparkle, an award-winning actress who's fronted a long-running popular TV aerobics show. But on the turning of the age of 50, she's dropped from her hosting gig by Harvey, her producer, an absolute grotesque of male lecherous nature, given wonderfully creepy life by Dennis Quaid. Striving to get her stardom back, Elizabeth strives to be seen as beautiful again, and when she discovers a black market drug known as the Substance, which promises to create a younger, perfect version of the user, she has some very strict rules to follow. Taking the drug, Elizabeth becomes two, with the other being Margaret Qualley's Sue, who immediately steps into the aerobic world that Elizabeth inhabited. However, the all-important rules start to cause problems for the pair, who struggle to remember that they are one. The Substance is an absolute crazy journey into obsession with beauty standards, and boy, it delivers throughout. The casting of Demi Moore as Elizabeth is perfect. Moore herself seemed to see her own career slip away as age started to creep in, and here, playing a 50-year-old that looks as amazing as Moore does, being told that she isn't pretty enough for audiences, is made all the more perfect to represent the hypocrisy of the male gaze, especially when you consider that Moore herself is actually over 60, and she looks fantastic. Quali is the perfect young Moore, naming herself Sue, and she sizzles with a sex appeal that she knows she can play to manipulate this male-dominated industry that she inhabits. Whereas Elizabeth let herself be controlled, Sue clearly has the upper hand, and she uses her beauty to her advantage. Quaid as Harvey is all smiling creepiness with lingering gazes and utterly abhorrent attitudes, and he's marvellous in the part. All of this is aided by the camera work and editing when he's on screen, with a lot of close-up moments and quick cuts, making it feel as uncomfortable to watch as it would be to speak with such a person. Throughout the film, the cinematographer Benjamin Cracken enhances every moment, taking us into a world of stardom with bright lights and gloss, all slickly focused and shot, to apartments that are luxurious and desirable, yet with a lonely and somber feel to them, to the threatening alleys and streets where the black market drug is supplied. This is a world that feels real, even whilst it feels someplace out of time. A rather 80s aesthetic permeates the film, yet with modern elements imbued within. Coupled with a fabulous use of sound, including the thumping beat of Rafetti's theme tune, the full mix of sound draws out the best and the worst of the world inhabited by these characters. Harvey's eating alone becomes even more disgusting when coupled with the sound mix drawn out of it. All of that, and we haven't even got to the body horror aspects of this film, which are present for the majority of the journey before becoming a huge factor of the final act, which goes almost full giallo horror by the end of it. This is Cronenberg and Society style of body horror, being used to push the satire into darker edges, with someone seeking to be desired again, ending up pushing herself to no longer be seen as desirable. The final act becomes a gloriously over-the-top moment that is packed with dark hilarity and horror, but never forgets the message that it's trying to present. As I left the screening of The Substance, I knew straight away it'd be getting placed somewhere within my top 5 for 2024. After a few days of it settling with me, I've realised this is going to be my film of the year.